some interesting football this season. We go to the Donut Box in Hamilton to bring in, well, he's a Sasky guy by trade, RJ Broadhead. Welcome to the all-new SportsCage. RJ, how you doing this afternoon?
Good, Chris. Good, Dave. Good to be with you guys. Good to be back in Sask.
Well,
Now,
we
give us a
put
little
a bunny hug on for you today, just so you know. So that's what it's all about here.
Oh,
Two of them-
finally
two-
speaking
we-
my language. Finally. I can say bunny hug again. I don't have to say hoodie. It's great.
Yeah, you're in the land of bunny hug. You don't have to worry about that. Now, RJ, you're the voice of the Hamilton Tigercats, but a lot of us knew you from here in Saskatchewan. You were the voice of hockey. Can you rewind? Let's go through your resume a little bit. Where'd you start? What'd you start doing? And how do you end up there?
Well, you have to rewind quite a ways. Next year will be 30 years in the business. Called my first game in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League with the Kindersley Clippers. Went on to work in Saskatoon, did some work with the Blades. Dave is very familiar. I think you came in after me, Dave, at a radio station there. But then went to Sportsnet and did a little everything there from lots of hockey, Hockey Night in Canada, 8 Memorial Cups I called, did a lot of soccer. I did a couple of Olympics, and the Hamilton Tiger-Cats started their own network, really. The radio rights weren't super lucrative, so they wanted to give this a shot. I think a lot of teams in other leagues have fallen along the Tiger-Cats' footsteps in doing this, but it's been a lot of fun. I was the first hire of the Tiger-Cats audio network, so that was quite an honor, and it's been an interesting 4 years doing it. This will be our first year not calling any playoff games.
Yeah, definitely something that has been unfamiliar for you. And first and foremost, the audio network that you put together, you put a great product together. Is it more of a challenge or less of a challenge when you can go ahead and kind of decide what you want the content to be?
That's a good question, Dave. It's, we want to be fair because we do work for the team, but sports fans are smart. So you can't pull the wool over anybody's eyes. So you have to do it with honesty and integrity. And especially early on this season, we were talking about a lot of the same things, a lot of the same mistakes with too many penalties, too many turnovers. The defense was struggling, but there have been a lot of positives too. Maybe Bo Levi Mitchell gets to 5,000 passing yards. That could be exciting. It is very Ticats centric, but we do the content, but we have some great people. Luke Tasker is the son of Steve Tasker. He does the color commentating. He's just a fantastic guy, very, very smart. And Mike Daly is also one of the analysts, one of the main analysts, and he was a great safety for the Tiger-Cats. And he's got that edge, that football player edge that is good and needed and opinionated. So, we talk about all the teams, but it's definitely Tiger-Cats focused, and we're fair. I've from calling games, Dave. If you have both sides, when I was calling games, say a Memorial Cup, if both teams thought I was a homer, I knew I was perfect. So with this, you can be a little more. It's the first time I've actually, for a long time, called games for a specific team. So it's kind of nice in that sense that I can get a little overexcited when the Tiger-Cats do something.
It's RJ Broadhead. He's the voice of the Hamilton Tiger-Cats on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline here on the all-new SportsCage. It's Maz and Dave Thomas. Now, you mentioned Bo Levi Mitchell. We covered fashion. Dave and I are both wearing bunny hugs. RJ, unless you've taken off the top part, I don't see you wearing Boveralls, which is one of the best stories to come out of the CFL this year. Tell me you at least got in on the ground floor and you've got some copyright to get paid on the back end.
Oh yeah, well I grew up on an acreage in Saskatchewan, so I've had Boveralls all my life. So they're just back in the closet. I had to suck in a little bit to get them on now, but that was a lot of fun. We joked around that Bo could have had a really nice hat or a beautiful jacket that started this streak and the winning streak that he could have worn every game, but it happened to be overalls and got nicknamed Boveralls. I had already committed, if there was a playoff game, I was going to wear the Boveralls. So unfortunately, there's no playoff game, but fortunately, I don't have to wear them.
RJ, my opinion was at one point this season that the Edmonton Elks were the best 0-7 team in football history. They were just so close. Hamilton is 6-10 right now. Do they deserve to have a better record than what it shows?
Yeah, they blew some games early on, Dave, that it's really come back to haunt them. I'm convinced they're going to miss the playoffs by a point. I think Toronto beats Ottawa tomorrow, and then the Tiger-Cats play Ottawa in the final game. That tie against Saskatchewan that Ottawa had is going to get them into the playoffs. That was an odd game. Both teams thought they won, and then nobody won. So as it turns out, that's a huge point for the Red Blacks. One of the games the Tiger-Cats that cost them was against the Red Blacks early in the season. They had a 1-point lead with 20 seconds to go, and they did a squib kick on the kickoff, and Ottawa ended up needing one first down, and then Lewis Ward kicked a field goal to win it. That was one that really cost them early on against the Riders. They blew a big lead, but the defense was allowing too much early on, and Chris Jones has come in. I know Riders fans are very familiar with him. He's done a great job with his Tiger-Cats defense. He's really simplified things, and they've been a lot better, but as it turned out, it was just a little too late.
So when it comes to the Hamilton Ticats, and it was hard watching early in the season because there was some drops, like Bo was putting the ball right where it needed to be. And, that sadly it goes on the quarterback stats as an incompletion or whatever, but then the team, but when they got rolling, and they looked good, Bo Levi Mitchell ends up getting benched, and then he's on social media with the lemonade stand pic with his kids, which I thought was hilarious. And I love Bo because Bo is Bo. He's got a personality. Love it or hate it, that's what you get. And then the next week, because of the injury to Powell, he's back in there and playing. Is he just a cool cucumber to be like, he knows what he needs to do when he needs to do it, and all he can tune out all the other noise, like getting benched and all of that, to be like, all right, I'm back in. Chin strap on, it's time to go to work.
Yeah, Maz, there's two ways you can go as an athlete. He could have packed it in and said, okay, well, you guys bench me. I don't really care. Or show that, hey, I am the guy. I am the best on this team. I should have never been benched. And that's a true pro. That's a Hall of Famer. He's been a lot better since that happened. And I guess it's a lesson for all of us, and so often there are life lessons in sports that, things aren't always going to go your way, but when you have a chance to prove yourself and control what you can control, you do it. And one thing that was really haunting Bo early on in the season, you said the drops, those were obvious. They weren't, 50-50 balls. They were clear drops. So that was definitely frustrating, but he's known as a gunslinger, and he would take some chances, and those chances more often than not earlier in the season were not working. He has not been taking those kind of chances since he was benched for Taylor Powell and then came back in. He's been protecting the football, and that's been a big key to his success.
It really baffled me how Bo was kind of the scapegoat, I thought, at one point. If you look at his numbers, right? And he even has a game in hand, so to speak, on Zach Collaros, but he leads him by over 500 yards in passing this year in the Canadian Football League. It, to me, boggles my mind how some of that attention was on him, as it being entirely his fault. But moving forward, is this Bo Levi Mitchell's team, or is that yet to be determined?
He's got another year left on his contract, so my answer would be it's Bo Levi Mitchell's team. I do know he's going to start tonight against Calgary. We know that it's a meaningless game in the standings. Both teams are going to miss the playoffs, but Bo, he needs about 470 yards to get to 5,000, and passing yards, that is. And so he's going to get a chance to start. We'll see how it goes. We will see Taylor Powell at some point. I would think that going into next season, it is Bo's team unless something crazy happens. We saw a lot of Taylor Powell last season as a rookie. We haven't seen a lot of him this year. He had a chance, and then injuries come up, and that put Bo back in. Then Bo's been great. So going forward with a year left on his contract, my guess at this point is Bo Levi Mitchell is going to be the starter of the Hamilton Tiger-Cats in 2025. And I would also be surprised if he's not the Tiger-Cats nominee for most outstanding player this season.
Yeah. We're chatting with RJ Broadhead. He's the play-by-play voice of the Hamilton Ticats. He'll be busy tonight calling the game. Ticats and Stampeders. It's on the Western Pizza guest hotline here on the all-new SportsCage. All right, RJ, you're from Saskatchewan. Put your green-colored glasses back on. Tell us what you like about this year's version of the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, one thing that stands out to me is ball protection. Plus 25 in the turnover ratio is envious for every other team. It's funny, we talk about it all the time because turnovers have been such an issue with the Tiger-Cats, and they're -8. At one point, they were starting to get close to even, and that was good. But to be plus 25, you're going to win a lot of football games when you protect the ball like that. So that's been a big key. The Riders they're great. A ton of depth. You really don't have any holes. A healthy Trevor Harris is as good as there is. He's ripped the Ticats apart many times. So we've seen Trevor Harris at his best. Scott Milanovich talks about him all the time. He was a guy who Scott Milanovich coached at one point, and Milanovich has that reputation as a quarterback guru and grooming a lot of the guys. So I like the Riders. I'm happy where Saskatchewan is, and I know what I'm cheering for when the playoffs come around.
RJ, I hope you don't get upset at this line of questioning. I know that Tara, your lovely sister, and Harv, your brother-in-law up in Saskatoon, I'm sure have filled you in. We're in the middle of an election campaign, and I want to see where your vote is going to lie. Of course, we're talking about the campaign for Rolan Milligan Jr. as MOP.
Okay, nice.
Legit
nice.
shot.
I didn't know where you were going, Dave.
Legit shot for MOP, or is that just noise that we're making here in Saskatchewan?
No, I think it's a legit shot. I talked about the turnover ratio. He's a big reason why the Riders' turnover ratio is so good. And when you have a guy like Rolan Milligan, what he's doing, it affects the other team's offense. Their game plan is to try to avoid throwing that ball in that direction. So I think when you can affect another team's game plan and you're getting results like he is, I think it's legit.
Yesterday we had Glenn Suter on, and he was talking about how he thought that Toronto was in a really good position to go far in the playoffs, potentially win the Grey Cup, because they can stop the run against anybody, especially Winnipeg. You get to see the Argos more than we do, and you've seen them for years, even when Corey Mace was there. Would you agree with Suits in how good they are when it comes to that defensive line?
Yes, I do agree. But before I fully answer that question, Maz, there is a consolation prize for Tiger-Cats and their fans, is that the Ticats swept the season series, all 3 games against the Argos this season. So they're not going to make the playoffs, but beating the Argos, a lot of Ticats fans are happy with that result. The Argos, we saw it against the Bombers. So to put some perspective, the Bombers came in here 2 weeks ago. Ticats had a bye last week, and they just dominated the Ticats 31-10. They looked great. So there wasn't a Tiger-Cat or a Tiger-Cat fan that thought the Argos were going to go into Winnipeg and hold the Bombers to 11 points. And you go back to that first quarter goal line stand where they stopped Williams twice, first from the 2, then from the 1, and kept them out of the end zone and turned the ball over on downs. Even a field goal would have at least been a tie game when you factor in the results. Touchdown probably would have won it for Winnipeg. Earlier in the year, the Argos stopped the Ticats 5 times on the goal line in a row. It was They stopped them twice, took a penalty, stopped them 3 times, took a penalty, stopped them 2 more times, and then Ticats said, that's it, we're kicking a field goal. And when they took that penalty and the Ticats had 3 more cracks at it from the 1, I said to Luke Tasker, I said, there's no way they're going to stop them 6 times from the 1. And he just looked at me and said, I don't know if you should say that. And sure enough, 5 times in a row. And Scott Milanovich said afterwards he'd seen that once before in his career, which I thought was amazing. Like, that's pretty rare for that to happen, but he just gave up and kicked the field goal. So the Argos are pretty dominant. It's tough to stop those short yardages, and to do it against Winnipeg twice in a row, to do it against the Ticats 5 times in a row. Yes, they can stop the run, and I do agree with Glenn Suter that they're in a pretty good spot, and I think they're going to be hosting a playoff game. We'll see what happens tomorrow. That's a big one. If they beat Ottawa, they'll host, and that'll be an advantage for them.
You know, go back to week 2. We were at Tim Hortons Field, the Rough Riders and the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, and you and I had a conversation. I don't know if you recall this off the air or not, but you said the Ticats cannot afford to have a slow start because Ottawa is no more a free space on the bingo card. And you called it right there. And I would submit to you then that you're not surprised with the success that Ottawa's had this season. Are you surprised, though, that they're stumbling a little bit down the stretch run here?
So, yeah, I do remember that conversation, Dave, and 8-10 has got the Ticats in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. They could win out and be at 8-10. We know they're going to miss the playoffs. So there isn't that weak link in the East Division this season. Ottawa was here 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they had 8 wins and 1 tie at that time. And I looked at their schedule, and I said to some of the people here, I said, Ottawa could lose out. They might lose every single game remaining this season. And if the Tiger-Cats can keep winning, that final game of the season in Ottawa could decide who's in and out of the playoffs. And as it's shaking out, Ottawa hasn't won. They had a really, and in the defense, the reason why I said that is they had a really tough schedule down the stretch, but they took care of business early on. And, you know, I think Ticats fans are a little bit, have a soft spot for Ottawa because Sean Burke is the GM there. He was here in Hamilton. Fantastic guy. He's done a great job with the Red Blacks. A lot of former Tiger-Cats are now on the Red Blacks because, of course, Berkey's familiar with them. So there's a little bit of a connection. So I think there are some Ticats fans that are happy the Red Blacks are in. They'd like Tiger-Cats to be in, but Sean Burke is a good person. He's got his team in a good spot. I think they're going to be on a losing streak going into the playoffs, but hey, you get in and anything can happen.
Well, you talk about former Ticats in new places. One guy I did want to ask you about, RJ, was Jameer Thurman, because he has been sensational with the Riders this year. There's a picture online of you and him having a one-on-one conversation. Just, again, great person, great football player. He comes to Saskatchewan this year. How badly does Hamilton miss him in the middle of that defense?
Huge. I for one, and I haven't investigated any further, but I was shocked when the Tiger-Cats didn't cement him in. I'll admit that Simone Lawrence last year won most outstanding defensive player. I voted Jameer Thurman. I would talk to Jameer, and even if they had a great game, it wasn't good enough. But it wasn't in a condescending way. It was just the way he is. We have to be there. You can always be better. You're never perfect. We can work on things. Yeah, we had a good game, but there's more to give. And I just love that about him. So I would always pull Jameer aside and have a conversation with him and try to get the seriousness. You probably talked to him a few times. He can be serious and try to get the smile going. And but I'm a huge Jameer Thurman fan. Great signing for the Riders. He probably doesn't get the recognition he deserves in the CFL. No. Teams that have him know how good he is, but it has been a big loss for the Tiger-Cats defense to not have Jameer Thurman, and great get for the Riders.
I'm going to go a step further. The team that is playing the Ticats tonight, they're really kicking themselves they ever let Jameer Thurman walk away, the Calgary Stampeders. RJ Broadhead, you got about an hour and 32 minutes until kickoff. You've got work to do. Thanks for doing this. Please come back. Let's do this again. You can pretend you're a Tiger-Cat person, but we'll always get you back to Riderville because it doesn't take that long or whatever. Those both, it's funny, you'd mentioned them. They were just overalls to us growing up as kids, usually GWG, and now they're overalls, and they're probably designer, and they'll cost $300. But you know what? Hey, listen, if you didn't shop at Army and Navy downtown Saskatoon as a kid, maybe mom and dad were doing something wrong, you know?
I was there.
I know, and sometimes you'd get rubber boots at Peavey Mart just because they were on sale and they had a whole bunch of them. So why wouldn't you get 2 pair, one a bigger size for the next year?
I'm home. I'm home.
RJ, thanks. Have a great call.